just in that example about Solomon, he was saying how Solomon asked for to possess wisdom of Yah, so he can know all things. But it wasn't just a prayer that he put out there. It was something that he had to actually demonstrate that he wanted through his works and his actions. And through his actions, Yah granted him the blessing to have the eternal wisdom of the Yah mind. And they say at that point, he was the wisest man on earth. But it's something that has to be, once again, manifested through your actions. Okay. So that's the answer to question number 9, which is, according to the scriptures, is pure belief in Yah alone enough to be saved? So we answered that one. So we're going to move on to question number 10. Pull that up on the screen. And that question is, do addictions to deadly drugs and sickening food classify as devil worship? Why or why not? Do addictions to deadly drugs and sickening food classify as devil worship? So at the top of our head, we can just say with confidence, yes, it does. Because, we understand that being addicted to something, it means you have no control over your own self. You have no self-control. And at that point, whatever it is that you're addicted to has control over you instead of you having control over it. But we want to go ahead and extract the eternal wisdom of why these things are considered, devil worship. So we're going to go into the writing. And we're going to go to page 111. And we're going to start at the last paragraph on 111. All right, and it reads on this wise. Working harmoniously with the law of Yah means opening communication with the Creator, ensuring automatic protection against every type of evil, evasion, or attack. But a broken line of contact with Yah leaves one naked and vulnerable to attack by every vile and wicked force in the universe. Howbeit, many defy the Creator and manage to break the law, as exemplified by the breaking of the dietary law given our fathers in the wilderness, wherein they were commanded by Yah to abstain from eating swine. The eating of hog was common practice in the lands of the Great Captivity, America. It must have been difficult to become accustomed to eating chitterlings, hog guts, since one had to struggle to overcome the dreadful stench and rank taste of greasy pig intestines, which only a short time period had been filled with defecation. Men toiled to break the law because it certainly had to be some endeavor to have to squeeze a stool out of the guts of a dead beast, then cook and eat them. It truly had to be a difficult ordeal. The instant reward for that violation of the law was a backlash of deadly diseases. Every part of the pig is equally dangerous to consume, and to do so is to assure yourself of having a diseased, sick, and filthy temple/body. Surely you are able to discern whom you worship by the results received. To flagrantly sacrifice your health and well-being is quite an arduous and severe task to perform. So in this example, the father is breaking down what's referred to as quote unquote soul food here in the United States of America, which is the consumption of the hog, the pig. And we do so here in America, and we consume all every aspect of the pig, from the ribs to the skin, pork rinds, to the hooves, to the tail. The snout, you name it. We consume the pig 100% here in America. But like in this example, he said you can tell if an individual doesn't truly worship the Creator because in the scriptures it was written that the sons and daughters of Yah were to not only stay away from and refrain from eating the pig, but not to even touch it 100% at all, because the pig, it waddles in its own filth and it can eat anything. So it's riddled with all types of parasites, bacteria, you name it. So we were told not to even touch it. But here in the lands of the Great Captivity, the exact opposite was allowed by us, and especially when it was instituted via the slave trade, when we were forced to eat what the slave master gave us. He gave us the leftovers of the animals, and that means the actual guts of the hog, which had feces. But to this day, our people here in America and abroad as well, they consume pig intestines called chitlins, and it's a delicacy. And when I was a kid, I remember my mom being in the kitchen, and during the holiday season, she would buy chitlins and she would squeeze, and clean the inside of the intestines out thoroughly. And I couldn't even walk in the kitchen because the smell was so bad. And I never tasted chitlins, as far as I'm aware, my entire life. And I couldn't get near them. And in my mind, I just couldn't see myself consuming something that smelled so bad. But it wasn't until I came into the kingdom and I began to, get exposed to the truth about our history and the actual laws of the Creator, where I made a connection that hey, I wasn't supposed to eat that, obviously, because it had feces in it, and it would have poisoned me. It would have made me sick. But our people, they don't possess the conscious awareness to connect it to. So it's just considered a delicacy. It's part of our culture here in America. But, like the Father said, your works in working towards, cleaning and doing whatever you got to do to prepare the intestine to consume it, at the end of the day, after you consume it, the end result of your works is sickness and illness. So, we have to be in conscious individuals, connect the dots, say, okay, wait, something isn't right here with the scenario. How can the foods that we consider a tradition, part of our culture, our heritage, killing us as a people? Why is it putting us in the hospitals with high blood pressure and diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, even the strokes, you name it, cancer, you name it. So it's a relative end result of our actions. So we can't disassociate our actions that we perform every day with our manner of worship and think that those two things aren't in common and they're not going to influence the quote unquote judgments that come upon us.